the first setup, how you originally set up the sawmill from a fresh log. I figured I'd make another video and show you exactly how I go from, I guess, start to finish on the first cut on a log. So I've already got it set up over here. What I've done is on the top here, I put on a board the full run, as you can see, of the log. Now, all logs are not created equal, all logs are not flat, all logs are not straight. So as a result, you'll see, come over here, as a result, you'll see that there's a pretty good gap in there. So if you look, I've created what is a mostly flat. It's not going to be perfect because this is going to be just rough cut lumber. But if you look in there, there's a gap. Like right here, it's kind of tight. And then as I go further down that log, let's see, you'll see that there's going to be a pretty big gap in here, right? Because this log's not straight. I mean, the whole thing, it's a tree, you know. So in order to get our first cut really well, I have to put this board on there, and I eyeball it and I adjust it up and down, either with shims or I nail it in place, and then I adjust it with pry bars up and down to make sure that that it's nice and straight. After I've gotten it to that point, then I come down here to the end of the log and I just look down to make sure I've got a nice straight run all the way down. The camera makes it look a little bit more bowed than what it really is. It has a slight bow to it because these are older boards. But that'll be my, this is going to be the guide for the chainsaw mill, the first cut that I make. Once this is off, again, like we did on this one, I don't have to use that 2x4 nailed down the full run of the log anymore, because after this comes off, then I do have the clean surface to work with. So next, I'm going to show you how I set up the sawmill itself. So I've got it here. I've got it set up. I just finished adjusting. Excuse me. I just finished adjusting the blade. I had just a regular cross-cut chainsaw saw blade on there, saw chain rather, had a cross-cut chain on it. Does not cut very fast. It gets dull really easily because the angle on that, when you sharpen those teeth, cross-cut sharpen at 30 degrees. So I took the time to basically resaw this. I took the rakers down almost all the way, or the guides, whatever you want to call it. I took those down almost all the way, and then I sharpened, I adjusted the pitch when I sharpened it to 10 degrees instead of 30 degrees, so it takes a much more aggressive bite out of it, and it's more suitable for ripping, which is what we're doing here. We're not cross-cutting. We're not cutting across the grain, we're cutting with the grain. So let me get some stuff out of the way, and then I'll show you how we set this up. I'm going to set it up and kind of walk you through it, the way I built this. You should be able to see, you see the whole blade. This is, again, thanks to Love to Boat 92. This is my 62cc Timber Pro. I've had no problems on it. I love it. The only thing that I really keep an eye on from watching his videos is, normal maintenance. But basically, every time I run it before I start it, right here on the exhaust, this bolt on the exhaust, for whatever reason, loves to loosen itself up. On his, I think he said it had almost completely stripped out. I caught mine before it started doing that. I noticed it was loose after I watched one of his videos, and now ever since I just I tighten it down. I'll probably end up pulling it out and putting a little bit of Loctite on there, running it back into place, and still monitoring it, but that should pretty much take care of the problem. I haven't had any problems with the exhaust loosening up whatsoever while I'm running it, because I've been monitoring it as he pointed out. So lag bolts, I used I should have bought the fully threaded, all thread maybe, whatever. This is all they had, so this is what I got. So this is what we're going to use. So we have to take into consideration when we're putting this together now that we have, I can't just put on, let's say, a 2-inch block and expect to make a good cut out of there. I have to take into consideration, I'm using a 2x4, so I've got, over 1.5 inches sitting on top of it. So that 1.5 inch block makes up the difference for my 2x4. So if I just put that on and put this on top of that guide, I would basically just cut the 2x4 right off there, which is really not what I want to do. So I want to go 2 inches below that 2x4. So now I'm also going to put in a 2-inch block on top. I'm going to do the same thing, 1.5 inches on the other side. That makes up again the difference for the 2x4. And then I'm going to put a 2-inch cut underneath that. Put that on. This is, there we go. That's my saw guide. That's me, 501 Labs. This is my saw guide. This rests on top. Thread it through, put the bolts through. And when I saw this, I just, so when I cut this board, I just made sure that the holes that I drilled in on the top of this guide match up perfectly and evenly with the bar underneath. Now I'm going to put another 2-inch block on top because I don't have, again, this is not an all threaded bolt. Lock washer and a nut. Put this in, 2-inch block like we did on the other side. We're just using that as a spacer today. Washer, lock washer, and a nut. Now, handy dandy pliers. I should probably be using a wrench for this. However, I don't have one in my tool bag right now, so I'm just going with this because I don't feel like walking over and getting my other wrench. So now, when I tighten this, I want to get it pretty tight. So I'm going to pause this video. I'm going to come back with another wrench or something else to help tighten this down all the way. Just 1 second. Okay, and we're back. Got a more proper, but not really proper, more proper wrench for it. I want this really tight because there's going to be a lot of vibration going on with this saw because it is a chainsaw. So and the vibration will somewhat loosen this stuff up. So usually I'll tighten this down until my lock washer is pretty much flat. That's good to go. Tighten this side down all the way. Sorry, it's a little bit noisy. I'm working off of the back of my truck. That's that. So now we've got that ready, set to go. Last thing I really want to show you on this is how I set up this saw, or I'm sorry, how I set up this log. I've got some slabs and just random pieces of wood cut. When you're cutting on a log like this, it's going to want to roll. It's going to want to move around on you. So what I've got here is on this side, I've got a slat that I cut off. It's the slat that I cut off the top of the log. So I just kind of tapped it into place, and it's just created a wedge for it on this side. And then again on this side, this was just a piece of wood that came off the top of it. I tapped it into place, and it just keeps this big log from rolling around. So next part of this video, you'll see me put in the saw, my 501 Labs chainsaw mill on here, and then going to town. Hi, sweetie.